Hi guys, I am back from TNNA. I am back from spending 3 days with Tabitha. I am back from finishing knitting this shawl, and I'm back from 3 photo shoots this week. I think it's time that we catch up. Welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Felicia Lowe. I'm the founder and creative director of SweetGeorgia Yarns. I make these videos hopefully every Friday, but it's been a little bit inconsistent lately because we've been quite busy. A couple of weeks ago, we traveled to Las Vegas to attend the TNNA trade show, which is the National Needle Arts Association trade show. And that was about 5 or 6 days. And then when we got back, I hosted Tabitha, our design director for knitwear and crochet designs and all that kind of stuff. She stayed at my house for a couple of days, and we did a whole bunch of stuff around that. And then after she left, then I immediately went into doing 3 photo shoots for our spring collection and our mini May collection that comes out in May. So it's been just a busy, crazy time. Last night, I think at midnight was, the first time that I was able to actually make it through all of my emails in my inbox, which had been there for maybe about a week and a half, 2 weeks. I don't like that. I really like inbox zero. So in any case, we're back now, and I just wanted to catch you guys up on what has been going on and what we were at TNNA for and all this kind of stuff. So if you haven't heard me talk about TNNA before, it is the National Needle Arts Association. So this is an industry association that is in the States that spans all different types of needle arts. So they cover knitting and crochet, the yarn stuff. They cover needlepoint. They do counted stitch, cross stitch, embroidery, those kinds of things. They don't do quilting, but they do these like the needle arts. And so twice a year they host these trade shows that we attend. And these trade shows are one of the only opportunities that we get to really meet with yarn shop owners face to face. So obviously it's a big deal for us. Now, in the past couple of years, TNNA has been going through a lot of changes as an organization, and they made a whole bunch of changes last year, including changing their management company, which caused them to make decisions about changing the venues or formats of these trade shows. So in the past, these trade shows have been at big, convention centers, big floor. Everybody has a booth that's open and there's an aisle, and you just walk down booth by booth by booth and aisle and aisle and aisle. And that's how the format has been for many, many years. Now, this past January, the show that we attended was a brand new format for a lot of yarn people, and they called it a hotel format. So basically, we had our booths reconfigured into hotel rooms, and the hotel is all suites. So you can walk from every single floor, and every hotel room is a suite. So that means it has kind of a living room area in the front and the bedroom in the back. And so the idea was that if you were a vendor, you could stay in the back and show your product in the front. And yeah. So when we all heard this idea, we were thinking, that sounds different. It sounds new. It sounds very unfamiliar and sounded a little bit scary because it just required a lot of thinking and a lot of brainstorming to figure out, well, how are we going to make this work? How is this going to look? How is it going to feel? How is it going to be? Having conversations with yarn shop owners in your hotel room. And we just weren't quite sure about this whole setup. But we just went into the whole thing with the spirit of, let's just try and see what happens. We just tried to be really, really positive. We're trying very, very hard to make sure that we support our industry, make sure that we support our industry association, because this is the association that creates the opportunities for us to be able to do this work. So we want for the association to succeed. We want for these shows to be successful. And so we just went into the whole thing with kind of an experimental, let's see what happens. So maybe for you to have a better idea of what I'm talking about, it might be good for me to show you a little bit about the behind the scenes stuff that happened in Vegas. And then I can tell you a little bit more about it after this. Straight down. Yeah, it's a lot more space than we thought.
She said she wants to. Yeah, that's why I got a gamble.
You've never been to Vegas?
No.
Hubert and Tracy were here last month.
Are we on 2 now? Is this where we're on 2? Yeah. Excellent.
What did you get?
I have the sexy MF.
Everything is made with cereal milk at that place, right? Mm-hmm. Is it good?
That's good. They all basically do the same thing.
Humanity.
And the staff was just so wonderful. They said, oh, we'll come up to this. And
Because of the slant of the seat?
the middle?
Yeah. That's what happens when you're the last one in.
Here we go. I was trying to record it and like, it's all black. You must have learned you're driving from Canada.
What? I'm helping, I am. Check in here. Check in here. Hello. Hi, good morning. Embassy Suites?
Did they give us the wrong?
Yeah, you went to this one. Is this an Omi? We've done this twice today already. Twice. It's okay.
Thank you.
You got that charge that room.
Okay, back in the car.
And there was some other place that they sent us to.
Okay, I'm gonna go try and check in first. Make sure we're in the right spot before we get everything. Oh, look, there's signs. Yeah, that's good. That's good. We're in the right spot. We have keys now.
Could have gone to mine.
I gave you your tip. Lifelines for complex lace. That was your tip.
We should be in a corner, right? 525.
Yeah.
Oh.
What? Better if we move the boxes in?
No, let's just move everything in.
I'm as steady as a shaking light. You know it's real. You know it's real. Can see the bright from the sky in the morning light. Light from the sky burns, and you see me come around from the other side. Come on and set the light in me, the light. up in your sight. You know I'm already with you. Treat me right. No, I'm as steady as a shaking light. You know it's real. You know it's real. Can see the bright from the sky in the morning light. Light from the sky.
Right here, we should go. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, I'm gonna
You don't want to walk in while it is 5 o'clock.
No.
And then when they're starving, just stop.
It was just underneath the
Did you do two?
No, just.
Say hi. Hi. Oh, thank you.
Those are yours?
Those are for us.
You kind of need to like. Then you
Well, and also like.
Sure.
I was like, oh, now I can.
Well, I mean, this is a very new TNNA format, and so we just wanted to come together and try something completely different and see what we could come up with. I mean, like, we all wanted to be really positive and really enthusiastic about this whole change, and so it's just, what can we do that's new and positive, right? So hopefully you guys got to see a little bit about the show floor, how the hotel system works, you know, about what our booth looked like, our room, how that looked and everything like that. We chose not to stay in the room where we were exhibiting, and instead we stayed off the Vegas Strip at these other kind of like an apartment style place, and it was fantastic and it was awesome. And there was a night that we all sat around and we just knit and we drank wine, and it was super nice to just be able to have breakfast together and just very relaxed and separated from where we were showing all of our yarn and things like that. Now, the whole time in all the weeks leading up to TNNA, I've been thinking about the video that I'm going to make about TNNA and trying to figure out, well, what am I going to say? Like, what do I say about TNNA? I want to share with you a little bit about the story behind all of this and what's the backstory and what's kind of going on. And I just kept thinking, well, what's the story? What's the story? What's the story that I'm trying to tell you? Maybe the best way that I can explain this is to show you or read to you a little bit about an article that I read on the first day when I woke up at TNNA. So like you're not supposed to do, I wake up and I check my phone. And on the morning, day one of TNNA, I woke up that morning and I was surfing through my phone and stumbled on this article. It's on the blog for a yarn store called Cowgirl Yarn. And it says, how can we ensure the survival of the local yarn store? Every year, the local yarn store directory website, America's Knitting, does a year-end report in which they tally the amount of yarn stores lost over the year. In 2017, the year began with 1,034 yarn stores in the USA and ended with 970. That's a deficit of 64 yarn stores in just 1 year. On average, that's more than one yarn store gone per state. Owner of Cowgirl Yarn, Lori, says this is the first time she has seen the yarn store number dip below 1,000 since she opened the store 13 years ago. So this is the very first thing that I read on the morning that we were about to go into a trade show where we were meeting yarn store owners. And we've seen for a number of years, there's a lot of anxious chat on Facebook, on blogs, in the news, all these kinds of things about retail stores declining, like retail stores disappearing. Not just yarn stores, but all kinds of retail stores. Like there was many years ago, there was a whole sort of turning of the tide with all of the bookstores that went under. And so lots of bookstores had to close down so that, big bookstores like Amazon was part of that whole situation. But in Canada, we saw huge Chapters, we saw huge Indigo, like these very, very big booksellers, these huge big booksellers were putting small independent booksellers out of business. And we were having conversations about this during the trip. Like, what happened to the book industry? What happened to the bookstore industry? And all of those stores having to turn over and reinvent themselves in different ways to then attract new customers, attract new audiences and things like that. And so we're seeing a lot of this kind of thing happen with yarn stores. There's a lot of frustration or a lot of anxiety around yarn shops closing, local yarn shops closing. And so going into the trade show, we're all a little bit nervous and we're kind of wondering how this is all going to pan out. Even on the way down to Vegas, Bridget was talking with her seatmate on the airplane, and he was in the mountain biking industry, and they were saying that they don't even go to trade shows anymore because everybody can do everything virtually now. So there's no need for everybody to get into one place to do business because everybody is accessible everywhere all the time now. So there's that we were considering as well. But I think at the end of our entire TNNA experience this time around, I came away feeling extremely positive about our experience at TNNA. I felt like the hotel room format was different, but it was also very interesting. And it was a challenge to us to come up with a new way to display everything. And so, the months coming up to this event, Teresa at our studio had done a lot of work trying to design how we're going to show everything, how we're going to display yarns. And then when we arrived on the day, we did at least an hour, if not more, of moving things around to make the space inviting and warm for people. And we're so glad that we did. In the end, we did win the Best Booth Award, so we're very, very excited about that. And the new show format also encouraged us to sort of try new things. And one of the new things that we tried was a collaboration together with a whole bunch of other yarn companies. So we collaborated together with Lorna's Laces, Oink Pigments, and Zula, as well as Knit One Crochet Two. And so the 5 of us, we each contributed one mini skein, different colors, different purples, some splashy ones, some solid ones, and we put them all together, and we had a designer design a shawl using all 5 of these mini skeins. And we wanted to sort of be positive about the whole Vegas experience. So we named it Vegas Lights. Vegas Nights. We were going back and forth. Vegas Nights. And so now this kit is available with the pattern and the 5 mini skein sets. And that is available on the Jimmy Beans website right now if you are interested in seeing that. Jimmy Beans actually also came by and did a whole Facebook Live conversation with all of us from all of these yarn companies. And it was just so positive to finally get a chance to sit down and talk with Amanda from Lorna's Laces. And she's just recently taken over the business from Beth Casey. And then to talk with Sabrina from Enzula. Like, we've seen each other at these shows for years, but never had the opportunity to sit down on a couch together and talk to each other. And it was fantastic. So, it was all about just embracing new experiences and trying new things, all with the intention of trying to support and encourage this entire local yarn shop industry. So I'm actually really interested in hearing from you guys. I would love to see your comments or your suggestions or anything like that, any of your feedback around the idea of why you like your local yarn store. What is it that your local yarn store does that attracts you, that keeps your business, that keeps you shopping at that local yarn store as opposed to shopping online? Or, if you don't shop at your local yarn store and you shop online, why do you shop online? For a lot of people, it could be that they don't have a local yarn store near them. And so the only way that they can actually access a lot of the yarns that they're looking for is to order them online. So, I would love to hear your thoughts and your suggestions, your comments, your feedback all around this idea of what makes your yarn store great. Why do you like your yarn store? Now, to sweeten the deal, I have a couple of things that I picked up at TNNA. So yes, I have a couple of things here that I'm happy to give away to a randomly selected winner or winners. Maybe we'll do 3 prizes. So let me show you what we have. We popped over to the Louette booth. So Louette makes spinning wheels and they make weaving equipment. Louette is the company that makes my spring weaving loom that I absolutely adore. And Louette has been around for a long time, but they were originally spinning and weaving, and they also did fiber. And last year, or the year before, last year I think it was, they decided to stop carrying fiber altogether. And instead, they transitioned their business entirely, well, not entirely, but they transitioned that part of their business to making knitting needles. So they bought the Collage Knitting Needle Company, and they make these needles now. So the needles that they make are square knitting needles. So as you know from a previous video that I did, I'm kind of on a quest to try different needles now, trying lots of new needles. I used to knit almost entirely with Addy needles and a couple of signature needles, but now I've decided to explore all the other options that are out there. And so Louette was doing like a little sample pack where you could get one of their DPN sets. This is their square knitting needles with the soft cable. There's another one here with a firm cable, and they're square. So the idea is that if you're knitting with a square needle, there's more surface area for your finger to actually make contact and put pressure down while you're knitting. And so for the same amount of effort, I think the idea is that you use less effort to do the same work. And so a lot of people who have joint problems or who have carpal tunnel are finding that when they knit with the square needles that it doesn't hurt as much. So I wanted to give it a try. You know, I had stuff with carpal tunnel before, so I just wanted to give it a try. So I think I'm going to keep one pair of needles to try, but I have two others. And so these ones I can give to somebody as a prize, but together I'm going to put it together with another pair. This is Hiya Sharp. They're really, really sharp. And so they gave me a pair that is a 40-inch 2.5 millimeter. It's a US 1.5, so that would be good if you're making socks. I knit socks with 2.25, so this is a little bit too thick of a needle for me, so I will be happy to pass this along to somebody who might like to knit socks with this one. And so those three needles together. So that's one of the prizes. The other thing is, now that I have all these needles that are floating around, I've been trying to figure out a way to organize them all. And I had sewn my own needle case many, many years ago, but it's old and it's not the thing anymore. And so I went by the Della Q booth, and she gave me this beautiful silk circular case. It's lovely. So this one I think is called the Sea Foam colorway, and this is made in Vietnam. It's made by some wonderful people there. And then there's a tie. You can open it up, and if you open up the flap here, there's pockets for all your circular needles. And the thing that I love about this is that they're all labeled. They're labeled with both the metric size and the US size, so I can find things. So this is an awesome, wonderful thing. And I have some needles I have random needles lying around here. What size is this? This is a 3.5 millimeter. Oh, there's a space for it right here. So you can tuck your needles in like so, and that would be amazing. So I can pass this on to one lucky winner as well. Let me just tie this back up for you to a nice little bow. So Della Q has all these kinds of bags. She has needle cases like this. She has needle cases. This one's for circulars because I like to use circulars, but she also has ones for DPNs and things like that, straight needles, lots and lots of wonderful things. And the proceeds of these, or a portion of the proceeds of these, go towards low-income and rural Vietnamese women so that they can learn quilting. So I think that that's kind of an amazing thing too that Della is doing. So check it out. It's Della Q, but this is another prize that I'm happy to give to you guys. And then finally, the last thing is for anybody who's interested in weaving. I went by the Pearl and Loop booth. Pearl and Loop is one of my favorite little companies. They make the sweetest little things. So these are things that I got from them previously at previous TNNAs, but basically this is a tiny little tapestry loom that they make, and everything is laser cut. So this one happens to be just from fiberboard, I think it is, or it's not actual wood, it's just little fiberboard. And so this is one that I've been playing with for a while now. And then this one is one that I got last year, and it's called the Swatchmaker 3-in-1. It's made by Pearl and Loop, and so it has all these little holes up here at different spacing, so that way you can basically warp this up at different sets, or different density of how close you want those threads to be together. So those two things have been what I've been playing with from Pearl and Loop. But this time at their booth, they were showing these things, these circular looms. So these are one-time use circular looms, and basically you just take your thread and you go across to warp it, and then you weave your weft yarn in a circle around, and it comes with these little feet as stands, so you can make little decorative things. So Angela at Pearl and Loop gave me 2 of these by accident. So I have 2 of these, and I'm happy to send these out to you guys for anybody who's interested in learning how to weave it. It's just a tiny little circle here, one-time use. Just put your yarn on here, and then there's little feet, so you can make it stand up on your desk, and it'll be really cute. So again, those are our 3 little prizes to tempt you, but basically I just want to hear about your comments about why you like your local yarn shop and what makes it awesome. Now I just want to very quickly show you this shawl that I finally finished knitting, but this is the Cederberg mystery knit-along shawl that we did this past fall. And so this is a design that Tabitha created for our mystery knit-along, and it takes 3 skeins of yarn, 3 skeins of fingering weight yarn. So I used Tough Love Sock, and this is the lupine colorway for the bottom lace. The stripy sort of speckly color, this was called Intergalactic, or this is a sample test skein that I did for Intergalactic a couple of years ago. It's a special colorway for Eat Sleep Knit. If you guys haven't seen it on the blog, we recently blogged about making a new custom colorway for Eat Sleep Knit for their Under the Sea theme. Like every year they do a different theme, and then they invite all these hand dyers to create different colorways every month or so to highlight the theme. And so this year's theme is Under the Sea, and a couple of years ago the theme was space and galaxy and stuff like that. So that's where this skein came from. And then the other skein that I alternated with it was a skein of undyed sparkle yarn that was just a sample that I had somewhere in the stash, and I wanted to use that up. So it's just a tiny little bit of sparkle, but the tiny bit of undyedness mixing with the undyed portions of the splashy kind of colorway, they just kind of diluted the splashiness. So I like it. I like that there's a tiny little bit of the sparkle to it. But yeah, the effect is quite subtle. But I love this finishing with the lace here. This color, I do love this color. But it was really wonderful and easy. I finished with just enough time. So the goal was to finish the shawl before Tabitha gets to Vancouver, so that we could do a photo shoot and everybody could shoot all of the stuff together. And I cast off when we were on the flight home from Vegas to Vancouver. So I just had enough time to block it that night and then shoot it almost pretty much the next day. But yeah, I was finding it was really a nice, easy lace pattern to remember. I think each one of these lace chunk sections, about 1 inch or so, that would take me probably about an hour to knit each 1 inch chunk. And so, I just basically calculate, how many episodes of whatever we happen to be watching. Right now we're watching Line of Duty on Netflix. It's like a UK crime drama. It's pretty good. So yeah, this is the Cederberg shawl. It is humongous. If only you knew how long it took for me to assemble this on myself. But yeah, it's humongous. I'll show you how big it is. It will take up the entire length of the camera plus more. So you basically start at the beginning, which is just here. You cast on like 2 or 3 stitches, and then you just keep adding and adding, and it just grows beautifully and easily. And I like this, striping pattern here, but it just keeps going and going and going. And then finally, lots of that blue or the purple stuff comes into play. And then you cast off at the bottom. I can't remember how many stitches are at the end when you finally finish, but it's a good chunk of knitting. Now, just to figure out how to put it back on. And I want to show you guys what I'm knitting, but in the bag here. I'm knitting, I can show you the color. It's Beach House. I'm knitting this color, and I'm knitting the Flax and Silk Fine. So that is the linen and silk blend that we have that is fingering weight. So I'm knitting this into a shawl. I won't show you the front side, but that's about as far as I've gotten so far. But this is basically a project from our spring collection, and some of the girls on the staff, on the team, we're all knitting projects from the spring collection as kind of like a knit along before we can show you these final projects. So hopefully by the time that the spring collection actually launches, we can show you all the things that we made. So that's what I'm working on in here. And then I also have another sort of secret project in here that is going to go along with the secret stash project that we're going to probably come out with in probably March. That's probably when we'll have time to release that. So I can't show you because it's secret. So that is it for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you liked this episode. I hope it was kind of interesting to you to see sort of the behind the scenes of what happens at a industry trade show for the yarn world. And I would love to hear about your comments and feedback about this episode. So if you want to leave your comment below, that would be fantastic. If you want to subscribe and see more videos about what we're talking about with SweetGeorgia and yarn and knitting and all this kind of stuff, I would love for you to subscribe. And yes, I guess that's about it. I guess we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for now. Bye.